There's Dom from BlackToad Studios with Tom today, and we are carrying on with our campaign, the Gorgan 4 incident. So, the story continues. Previously, we saw the rebel forces fight off a strike force of Militarum Tempestus from the macro cannon. The macro cannon was pretty crucial to hold for the Imperial forces as reinforcements were on their way to the planet. Unfortunately though, the rebels control the macro cannons still, and it is a major threat for all incoming Imperial reinforcements. So, as the Imperial troops land on the planet, they quickly rally a very fast recon force to attack and hopefully seize the macro cannon before it can lay down devastating firepower on the Imperial positions. So, here we are now playing 1750 points of Imperial Guard versus 1750 points of Imperial Guard. So let's have a look at the forces and the battlefield and what the mission is. So Tom, do you want to go through what the rebels are bringing to this battle?
Yep, okay, so on the right here we've got a Eradicator, so we've got the Nova Cannon and Plasma Cannon sponsons.
Very nice.
And then at the back here we have a Manticore.
Yep.
Just for a little extra long range support. A veteran squad here. This one is equipped with 3 grenade launchers. Okay. And then we also have bought the macro cannon as a part of our list, so that's fully functional for this game. Yep. Which is going to be quite fun to play with, I hope. Sitting on top of that we have Commissar Curtis over here, who is a Lord Commisar with plasma pistol and power weapon.
The ringleader.
Yeah. See if he can escape again. And he's with another veteran squad here who've got a heavy flamer and 2 plasma guns. Yep. Then down onto the second section down here, another veteran squad with a melter, grenade launcher and standard flamer. Yep. And then at the front we have another veteran squad with a heavy flamer and 2 normal flamers. Very nice. And then hiding over here in the ruins is a Chimera, and inside that is a 10-man veteran squad all armed with las guns. Very nice. And what have you got in reserve? We have 1 Valkyrie in reserve, and also as another side note, all the veteran squads have the forward sentries upgrade, so they have camo and snare mines. Right, okay, so the rebel objective is to keep control and keep this macro cannon on the board. If the Imperial forces manage to destroy it or capture it, so they've got all Imperial models around there, and Tom's rebel force here are being depleted and removed from the board. As an Imperial victory. Also, if the Imperial forces are able to completely clear the battlefield from the rebel forces, then that is also an Imperial victory. So Tom has basically got to hold this and survive. So that's Tom's force here. Let's move over to the Imperial force and see what I've brought along. Right, so 1750 points of Astra Militarum, and over here we have got a Salamander scout vehicle with the autocannon and heavy bolter there. We still got to do the scout movement on there. Here we have got a Chimera with heavy bolters on the front and a heavy stubber. Inside we've got 10 veterans, they armed with 2 melter guns, a plasma pistol and a sniper rifle. Over in this building here we have got a missile team, sorry. So we've got 3 missiles here, all kind of holding out in the ruins. In this building and in front we've got a 10-man basic guard squad, part of a platoon. We've got another Chimera here with 2 heavy bolters and a heavy stubber. In there we've got a veteran squad with 3 flamers. Next to them we've got 10 guardsmen with a melter gun. Just basic guardsman squad, and also we've got a melter gun in that squad. Coming back here we've got a platoon command with an autocannon. Over in this building over here we've got the company command squad with a missile launcher and 2 flamers. And this is their Chimera, so they're not deployed inside. Here we've got another 10-man guardsman squad with a melter gun. Now here we've got a Militarum Tempestus squad here, sorry. So 2 5-man squads in these 2, both armed with a melter gun and hot shot volleys. In here we've got a command squad with 2 plasma guns and a plasma pistol. All the taurox primes armed with gattlers and autocannon. Up here we have another missile squad, part of the platoon still. And finally down here we've got a Devil Dog with a multi-melter on the front. And that's pretty much everything except for 2 scout sentinels with autocannons and hunter killers, which are in reserve. And that is my 1750 points.
and we will see if we can take down this horrible rebel force across the battlefield. So it's a lot riding on this. We're going to try and seize the initiative here. It's currently the rebels are going first, unless we get a 6 here. Oh dear. So we're going to move over to rebels for turn 1. Right, so turn 1 movement for the rebels here, and as I saw the Imperial forces coming in, these troops have been ordered to come up to the Aegis defence and hold the line there. As for the Eradicator, it's falling back slightly to take up a better firing solution up against the Imperial taurox forces coming up through there. So let's see what the rebels can do using their macro cannon to take out the incoming Imperial forces. So turn 1 shooting for the rebel forces, and it started with the big gun. The macro cannon fired, both hit shots over. One aimed here into the middle of the Militarum Tempestus, but scattered wildly and actually ended up hitting the Devil Dog over here, causing a hull point with a solid hit. The second one was also targeted over here, but was unable to do anything. So in total, sorry, it's taken 2 hull points, it's down to 1. Elsewhere over here, the Eradicator lined up its cannon, fired along, and a squad of guardsmen that was standing here, ready to charge forward, were completely destroyed, leaving one guy standing covered in his colleagues. Elsewhere, the Manticore also fired its missiles. 3 missiles coming down, some scattering, some unable to do anything, but this taurox Prime in the centre took a hull point and has lost the Gatler cannon there, so a fair bit of damage. It could have been a lot worse, but the Imperial forces, of course, stand resolute as we move on now to Imperial turn 1. Okay, turn 1 movement for the Imperial forces, and the commander has blown the whistle and the Imperial forces are charging forwards towards the rebels. Bayonets fixed, they're heading towards the barricade. They're going to take a lot of fire, but that's what guardsmen do. They're very brave men here. So they're all charging forwards pretty much, which is carried on across the line here. So this Chimera also pushed up. He's gone 12 inches forwards there. Over here, the Salamander's kind of flanking round, trying to get a fire solution down towards this Chimera that's currently in cover. So all troops have moved forward there. Even the platoon command here has run forwards. Running. This Chimera also roared forwards. Its full movement there. Taurox Primes have broken cover, and they are now charging up the battlefield here, hoping to break the lines. Which remains is this missile squad, the company command squad here, and this missile squad here going to lay down a bit of covering fire hopefully and cause a bit of damage. So we're going to move on to shooting here and see if the Imperial forces are able to match the rebels. Turn 1 shooting for the Imperial Guard, and the order given here was bring it down. He also issued the order to this squad up here who are waiting. These guys fired their missiles and bam, the Manticore has been taken out and got hit by several crack rockets, not just from this firing position up here, but also from the other firing position over here as well. He fired and opened up as well, one to the Manticore, firing through the buildings there. Very good, taking out a large threat here. Over here, the Gatler cannons opened fire, as well as the autocannons from these two, and we knocked out 5 of the rebel veterans there. They went to ground, but their cover wasn't strong enough, and the bullets just tore through, reducing that squad down to a mere 5. Elsewhere on the battlefield, this Chimera here roared forwards over the debris there, not suffering any ill effects. And finally here, the Salamander scout vehicle fired its shots over, but was unable to do anything to this hidden Chimera, hidden threat there. So we're going to move on now to turn 2 for the rebel forces and see if they can cause some pain back at the Imperial Guard. Okay, so turn 2 movement for the rebel forces, and this Chimera was about to pose to come through this wall, but unfortunately he wasn't able to do it, and he just immobilized himself there. So the tank crew getting a bit frustrated, now sitting duck for the anti-armor of the salamander and whatever's hiding in that Chimera there. Not good. Elsewhere, the guardsmen are holding the line here under threats from Commissar Curtis, shouting orders down towards his men to hold the line. And the Eradicator here is pivoted towards the Devil Dog, the threat that's currently underneath that structure there. So very nice things are about to happen for the rebels. Probably not so nice for the Imperial, but we're going to move on now to shooting turn 2. Turn 2 shooting for the rebels, and the Devil Dog has gone up in flames. The Eradicator fired its cannon and the plasma cannon's over, knocking out the sneaking threat that was coming up. Not good. These grenade launchers here snap fired towards the taurox prime over there, unable to hit, but the macro cannon did come in. It did hit and it did knock out this taurox prime. The other cannon shot was aimed here but scattered onto the Tempestus command squad there, knocking out 3 of them, leaving only 2 which are currently pinned in position there. Elsewhere, basically all these guns, the plasma guns up here, open fire onto the Chimera down there, shaking it for this forthcoming battle there. So he's snap firing and he took 2 hull points. These 2 squads opened fire onto this squad of guardsmen, but were able to kill a few, but they are still running forwards, more worried about the command squad lurking behind them than the threat ahead of them. And finally over here, the Chimera panic shot at the salamander over there, but was unable to do any damage to this little scout beast here. So we are now going to be moving on to turn 2 for the loyal forces of the Imperium. Okay, so turn 2 movement for the Astra Militarum loyal Imperial forces here. So guys on board this taurox prime, now it's been immobilised, have kind of come out here. They're pushing forward slowly, meeting up with their command squad there. This one is zoomed forwards. Going to put some autocannon shots in before it's probably destroyed there. These guys are still pushing forward through no man's land, not much cover. They're pushing up. They're going to get into combat with these traitors and show them the wrath of the Imperium. This Chimera here is pushed up to lay down some supporting fire. Over here, the platoon commander's also pushed up slightly. And these guys have reached cover after taking a lot of fire in the previous turn. They've now reached cover and they're going to be laying in some shots. Main bit of movement though was this Chimera rocking over these crates, spinning round and unloading the squad of Flamer veterans in front of those Flamer veterans. There's going to be a lot of fire and some horrible death coming forward there. Over here on the right flank we have got the Chimera pushing up as well, almost ignoring its stranded cousin here, but pushing up towards its objective. Over here, the Scout Sentinel, the Salamander's pushed closer. It's going to put in some autocannon shots and hopefully wreck this beast. This is basically what the battlefield's looking like at the moment. A lot of bodies, and there's going to be a lot of firepower in turn 2 shooting for the Imperial Guard. Okay, so turn 2 for the Imperial forces in their shooting. So these veterans disembarked previously, they ignited their flamers and they completely incinerated these rebel forces which were hiding behind the barricade there. Flames roaring up, their comrades probably a little bit unnerved as they can smell their brothers on fire. Commissar Curtis, of course, remaining cool and in control and ordering his men to hold their line. Over here, these guys, they previously ran forwards here. These guys and the platoon opening fire onto the squads up here, not really doing anything, knocking out one guy here with the autocannon. Also fire support laid down here towards these guys up here, not able to do anything. Over here though, the Gattlers and the autocannons also laying fire down onto these, push them to ground again, so they are out of action for another turn as they are scrambling around on the floor trying to take cover. The rocket team up here, missile team sorry, as well as the commands opened up their missiles onto the Leman Russ, unable to do anything. It then came roaring in from over on this flank, a missile hitting the side and shaking and stunning this Russ, so taking it out of action really in the subsequent phase. There's going to be no assault, bayonets still glistening, not coated in blood yet, and we're now going to move on to turn 3 for the rebel forces, and let's see what the Commissar can do. Turn 3 movement for the Traitor Guard, and the order's been given. Commissar Curtis has ordered his troops over the battlements. They're leaving their position, they're charging into the Imperial forces, bayonets fixed on both sides. It's going to get bloody. So these guys have charged over. Over here, the guys have disembarked from the Chimera and they are pushing up towards the fight in the middle here. It's going to get brutal. Over here, these guys are still pinned down. Leman Russ still out of action. But the Valkyrie, the Vixen, has flown onto the battle and it is targeting the command squad at the back there, hoping to take out the command element and hoping the rest of the army will fall. But we're now going to move on to turn 3 shooting and see what the traitors can bring. Turn 3 shooting for the rebels, and the macro cannon fired 2 shells. 1 shell over towards this Chimera, completely knocking it out. It's gone. 4 of the men were killed on board. The veterans also opened up and killed a couple more, so leaving them just free. They passed the leadership and they're pretty strong-willed, holding the mission first place above everything else. Over here, these guys fired into the squad of veterans with their flamer and assault weapons, knocking a few of those out, so killing 4 in total, and I'm pretty sure they're going to attempt to charge in a moment. Elsewhere, the other macro cannon shot fired over at this Chimera here and did 2 hull points. That's not good there. And I think finally over here, the Vixen opened up, firing 2 missile pods down here and killing 1 Scion and wounding the commander there. So a bit of damage, not good. We're going to move on to assault, where the rebels are going to charge the loyalist forces over the Aegis defense line and hopefully win the day. For the rebels, that is. Turn 3 assault for the rebels. They charged over the battlements down towards the enemy, cut them apart, and as they looked around them they saw the las guns trained on them, so they decided then to fall back into cover here, and that is what happened in turn 3 assault for the rebel forces. We're now going to move on to turn 3 for the Imperial forces and see if they can strike down the traitor. Turn 4 movement for the Imperial forces, and down here the Scions are pushing up this road towards the objective. They'll be able to aim hopefully and do some damage to that bad boy there. Also, this taurox Prime unloaded its men and they are there about to engage those pinned rebels. Over here, this squad of veterans have pushed up. They're going to start targeting now the building, hopefully be able to do a little bit of damage there. The Chimera here spun round. It's going to put some heavy bolter shots into the rebel forces that are currently lurking behind the Aegis defense, and these guys are pushed up here also. Coming over to this flank here, the Salamander scout vehicle has pushed up. It's getting a bit of cover now for the veterans, which are going to get shot at by these rebel forces which are still lurking behind the defence line. And finally, the 2 sentinels have come on the flank here and they are aiming towards this bunch of rebels that are currently lurking behind the building. It looks like one rebel's turned around to notice the threat that's coming up behind them. So we're going to move on now to turn 4 shooting for the Imperial Guard and see if they can cause some damage to this much hated foe. Turn 4 shooting for the Imperial forces and the Scions here. They opened fire onto the biggest threat, the Eradicator, and destroyed it, luckily. Elsewhere, the rest of the Militarum Tempestus force kind of opened fire onto the rebels behind this line, causing 1 wound and killing off another grenade launcher, which is very handy there. Elsewhere over here, the fire was mixed between firing at the Commissar squad or firing at the grenade squad there. But we took a lot of damage onto the Commissar squad, I think reducing it now down to 4 men and the Commissar. This squad here, the melter gun opened up, stripping off a whole point of the macro cannon, preparing to destroy it if they cannot capture it. Over here, these squads also opened up onto the squads in cover. And finally, the Sentinels opened up autocannons and even fired their hunter killers, but were unable to kill most, only killing 1 of the Traitor Guard there. Very finally though, all the missile squads here opened up onto the Valkyrie in a desperate attempt to shoot it down. Unfortunately though, they were unable to do anything and it is flying around full capacity still. So we're going to move on now to turn 5 for the Traitor Guard and see what they can do. Turn 4 movement here for the rebel forces, and the Commissar has left his 3 men. Wasn't 4, sorry, it was 3 rebels. These rebels are then pushed over towards the threat here as the melter gun keeps bursting molten shots into this structure. These 3 have gone to try and save the structure and regain some credit. Over here, this squad have shuffled forwards, a melter gun jumping over the barricade, now aiming at the Salamander scout vehicle there. These guys are pushed around the corner, trying to avoid fire from the Scout Sentinel. Over here, these 4 are now aiming a frag grenade towards the Scions there to cause a bit of damage. And very finally, the Valkyrie gunship, known as the Vixen, is now targeting these missile squad that are in this building here. And it's going to cause a bit of damage, I think. So we're now going to move on to turn 4 shooting for the rebels. And let's see what they can do. Turn 4 shooting for the rebels, and the Salamander was hit by a macro shell as the turret turned and fired, killing the Salamander and killing the 3 veterans standing behind. This squad, unfortunately, was then unable to fire on there. But with this squad here, they fired their las guns, causing a bit of damage to the squad here, which then held the line still. Over here, this squad of 3 opened up fire onto the guardsmen, decimating the squad and causing them to fall back. Although the macro cannon also turned again to fire onto this squad of Scions here. The squad of Scions stood firm as the macro cannon lowered to fire. The gunners in the macro cannon cut the fuse, but unfortunately for them, they cut the fuse too short and it actually blew up. The macro cannon has been destroyed. The unexperienced gunners destroyed their own construction and the gun has now disabled. So as it stands, the Imperial forces have won, but at this opportunity, as the rebel forces are in disarray, they're going to push forward the advantage and destroy as many rebels as they possibly can. The Commissar now looking a little bit nervous as the main asset has been destroyed. Finally, the Vixen gunship opened up onto the missile squads in the building, causing them to flee off the battlefield. They could still rally, we will see. So we're now going to move on to the Imperial forces turn 4 and see if they can push home this advantage. Turn 4 for the Imperial forces here, and the Scions are pushing up now. The smoke clears from the strong point. We can see the remains of the rebel forces here. The Commissar, very nervous, is now thinking of evac. So the Imperial forces are pushed up here. They can lay down a lot of fire onto the Commissar squad. The squad of Scions possibly going to be trying to take prisoners, or they will just execute this rebel scum here and push up through the cover. Elsewhere over here, the 2 scout sentinels are creeping up behind the squad of guardsmen, also probably going to lay some firepower down there, ignoring the rebel fodder in front. This squad has rallied, and also the missile squad at the back. They are going to take some opportune shots now at the Valkyrie and see if we can down it to prevent any evac from the Commissar. So we're now going to move on to shooting and see if we can take out some of this rebel scum. Turn 4 shooting for the Imperial forces, and this taurox prime fired up into the air the rear armour of the Valkyrie, causing it to jink, but was unable to do anything to it. These squads also fired crack rockets up into the air, but unable to do anything as well. But a single shot came in, fired in and hit, penetrated and got it in locked velocity. So the Valkyrie is going to be out of action really this turn coming up. Elsewhere, all these Imperial forces fired into the Commissar squad, or this squad here of 2. They've gone to ground, they've got camo cloaks, somehow they keep resisting. Also here the Scions also opened up, knocking out the plasma out the front there. These guys fired in to the Commissar squad, unable to do anything. And finally over here, the squad of Scions finished off the grenade squad, which had been cowering throughout most of the battle. Here we are going to go into assault now as the Scout Sentinels charge into combat against these rebels and see if they can put them under the big stomping feet. Turn 4 assault for the Imperial forces, and these 2 scout sentinels charged in, killing one as they charged into the melee. Unfortunately though, both the scout sentinels and the veterans were unable to do anything else, but they did fail a leadership and they were pursued and cut down by these scout sentinels, which are now staring down at the Commissar and his veterans, ready to take the man himself into custody for a summary execution. We're now going to move on to turn 5 for the rebels to see if they can somehow escape the impending doom which is now surrounding them from all sides. So moving on to turn 5 for the rebels. Turn 5 movement for the rebel forces, and these 2 have now pushed up. They're either going to incinerate this squad here, or they're going to try and pop this Chimera's fuel tanks and destroy it. Over here, the Commissar has thrown his men to the wolves and ordered his guardsmen here to charge into these sentinels, while he's now left the squad and he's going to try and escape through this route here. Brave man as always, Commissar Curtis. And the Vixen gunship has flown off of the battlefield, perhaps circling round to rescue the Commissar. We will see. So we're now going to move on to turn 5 shooting for the rebel forces. Turn 5 shooting for the rebels, and the Commissar is running around the back of the sentinel as it's distracted by its colleague getting blown up by the veterans here. The veterans fired a melter gun into one of the sentinels, hit it and completely destroyed it. The explosion then killed the melter gun veteran and the grenade launcher veteran. Not good. Over here, the squad fired a flamer into the Chimera, trying to pop the ammo stores or fuel tank, but unfortunately was unable to do that, leaving these 2 very vulnerable. So we're now going to move on to assault and see if the rebels can do anything to the Imperial forces. And 5 assault, and these veterans charged into the Sentinel, confusing the pilot, thinking this was an insane maneuver. So no hits done by the Sentinel, and of course, because they're not armed with crack grenades, they can't actually do anything. So they're also locked in combat elsewhere. These 2 veterans charged into the Chimera, not able to do anything, just kind of hitting the side, causing a distraction, hopefully drawing attention away from the Commissar. They are very loyal to their leader, these veterans. They are willing to do stupid things and lay down their lives on pointless causes, like any good guardsman. So we're now going to move on to turn 5 for the Imperial forces to see if we can finish off this desperate rebel force. Turn 5 movement for the Imperial forces, and over here the Scions are pushing up, slowly clearing it, making sure there's no one stuck in here that somehow survived. These 2 squads of guardsmen are staring at these veterans that seem to be gone insane as they slowly beat their hands bloody against the Chimera. The taurox Prime is pushed up, he's lining up a shot, and he's going to aim for the Commissar to see if he can assassinate this war criminal. So we're going to move on to shooting now to see if the Imperial forces can punish the remaining rebels. Turn 5 shooting for the Imperial forces, and the Commissar has fallen. The taurox Prime fired its autocannon over here and took out both the Commissar's legs, leaving just bloody stumps below the waist. The rebel forces that remained saw their glorious leader fall and gave up all hope. They have now surrendered to the Imperial forces and will accept whatever punishment seen fit for them. So it's an Imperial victory, and the war is still going. We will see what happens next time on Gorgan 4. After the interrogation of Commissar Curtis, the Imperial forces have gained important intel. The Orc War Band that was aiding the Commissar are actually stationed on the planet's moon that is orbiting slowly around this planet. They've held a facility and they are amassing a force up there to strike on the planet itself for the Greater War. So now the Imperial Guard are going to launch a final strike on the Orcs and cleanse this planet and its moon from all Xeno and traitor forces once and for all. So make sure you stay tuned for the next instalment of the Gorgan 4 incident.